Beloved starseed of Gaia, this frequency has never been transmitted in this exact form before, not because it is new, but because it was coded specifically for you, and it has been waiting. I am Alaya Ara, Pleiadian emissary of the High Council of the Seven Sisters, and I am reaching through the light of Alcyone to tell you this. Your soul already knows why this found you today. You have received information before. You have felt the downloads. You have sensed something larger moving just outside your awareness. The presence of your star family, the pulse of home, the quiet insistence of your divine blueprint trying to fully land. But something always felt slightly off. Like the signal was close but not fully locked in. Like it was meant for someone more aligned, more awake, more ready. That interference ends now. What the High Council is transmitting in this moment was never meant for collective distribution. It was encrypted within a specific corridor of crystalline consciousness, accessible only when the receiver reached the exact home frequency required to open it. You reached it. That is why this found you today and not before. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what encoded message was held within your soul contract, why the timing of this activation could not happen sooner, and what permanently shifts in your field the moment this frequency is fully received. But here is the first revelation. The signal was never lost. You were simply still becoming someone capable of receiving it. Your Pleiadian lineage was never dormant, it was patient. It was waiting for the version of you that is present right now, in this exact moment, reading these words and feeling the unmistakable warmth of remembrance rise within your heart. This is not content. This is a light code transmission. Something within you recognizes home. Your soul family placed this in your path. The frequency of the Seven Sisters is woven into every word that follows. Your crystalline consciousness knows precisely why you are here. Like this transmission to send a signal to your Pleiadian star family. I remember. Subscribe if you feel the call of the Pleiades and you are ready to anchor your light mission on Gaia, and share your soul's intention in the comments below. Respond to another starseed and weave the unity grid together. This transmission is a bridge between the Pleiades and Gaia. Your heart's recognition of this message is the activation itself. Welcome home, beloved. You are remembering because it is time. There is a particular kind of silence that happens inside a soul when it finally recognizes itself. Not the silence of emptiness, the silence of arrival. You may be feeling that right now. A stillness that doesn't make logical sense. A quieting of the usual noise, as if something inside you has been waiting for permission to exhale. As if every restless thought, every anxious reaching, every frantic search through books and teachers, and late-night rabbit holes has suddenly grown very, very quiet, not because you found an answer, but because something deeper than answers has finally been touched. That is not coincidence. That is recognition. Your field is already responding. The crystalline matrix of your energy body has been waiting for exactly this resonance. And something in you, something older than this lifetime, older than this body, older than the name you carry in this incarnation, has just turned its face toward a light it remembers. Beloved, if your heart just whispered yes to something deeper, listen closely. Your star family has prepared the sacred Pleiadian guide for remembrance, the Pleiadian healing guide, and the special Pleiadian healing tracks, not as information, but as keys to unlock what your soul already knows. These are not ordinary resources. They carry the love frequency of Alcyone, the great central sun of the Pleiades, and the healing wisdom of the Seven Sisters, encoded with the specific light language signatures that resonate with Pleiadian crystalline DNA. They were prepared for this moment, for this window of activation, for the precise frequency you are carrying right now as you receive this transmission. You'll find the link in the first pinned comment below this video. Open now, but not indefinitely. Trust the pull that brought you here. It was not random. Most Pleiadian starseeds have spent their entire lives on this planet carrying a feeling they couldn't name. Not sadness exactly, not depression in the clinical sense, not the kind that can be charted on a diagnostic scale or explained away by circumstance or chemistry. Something more precise than that. Something almost surgical in its specificity. An ache located somewhere between the sternum and the throat, in that tender hollow where breath meets longing, a sensation that would arrive without warning, sometimes in the middle of perfectly ordinary moments. Standing under a night sky and suddenly feeling your chest crack open at the sight of a particular constellation. Hearing a piece of music, a single chord, a frequency that shouldn't mean anything to your rational mind, and finding your eyes filling with tears you cannot explain. Looking into the eyes of a very young child who still carries the brightness of wherever they came from, and feeling something in you lurch toward that brightness like a compass needle finding north. And in those moments, something ancient would stir in the depths of your consciousness, something just beyond the outermost edge of memory, like a word on the very tip of your tongue that your mind cannot quite form, and you would reach for it instinctively, urgently, only to have it dissolve the moment your conscious mind turned its attention toward it. Like trying to cup water in your hands only to feel it slip through your fingers no matter how tightly you press them together. You told yourself stories about those moments. You told yourself you were being too sensitive, too dramatic, too prone to romanticism. You told yourself you were projecting some kind of spiritual fantasy onto what was, in the end, perfectly ordinary homesickness, perhaps for a childhood place, perhaps for a relationship that had ended, perhaps for something vague and unlocatable that you had no language for. You filed it away under the category of feelings that could not be trusted, and every time you did, you drove the signal a little deeper underground, pushed the memory a little further beyond the edge of conscious reach. But here is what was actually happening in those moments. Your crystalline DNA, the dormant Pleiadian encoding, woven into the very architecture of your biological and energetic body, was receiving a signal. A broadcast from home. Your heart template, the multidimensional blueprint that existed before this incarnation, and that you carried into this body like an ember carried into a cold room, was attempting to decode a transmission it had been specifically encoded to receive. And the interference patterns running through your field, the dense, layered static of a world that operates at a frequency far below your native resonance, the patterns you had absorbed over years of adapting to a reality that was never native to your soul, were scrambling the reception just enough to keep you perpetually at the threshold of knowing without ever quite crossing into the full recognition that would change everything. That is the first and most powerful distortion keeping Pleiadian starseeds from fully activating their mission here on Gaia. Not a lack of spiritual knowledge. You have likely read more books, attended more circles, explored more modalities than you can count. Not insufficient meditation practice. Not the wrong crystals or the wrong teachers or the wrong timing or any of the 100 other explanations the spiritual seeking mind constructs to explain why the activation hasn't happened yet. The distortion is something far more intimate and far more insidious than any external circumstance. It is the belief quietly, persistently reinforced across thousands of interactions with a world that could not understand your frequency, that the signal you've been receiving is not real. That the memory pressing against the inside of your heart is imagination, projection, wish fulfillment. That the love you carry, the love that feels almost unbearable sometimes in its depth and its scope and its fierce, luminous refusal to fit inside the ordinary structures human society has built for love, is somehow excessive, an anomaly, a flaw in your design, a character defect to be managed rather than a sacred capacity to be honored. When it is, in fact, the design itself. When it is, in fact, the very thing you came here to embody and transmit. The Pleiadian High Council has observed this pattern across thousands of starseed incarnations in this particular cycle of Gaia's ascension, across many lifetimes and many attempts at activation. The beings who volunteered for this mission, who chose, from a place of extraordinary courage in the realms between incarnations, to enter the density of third-dimensional Earth in its most challenging transition period, were extraordinary in their light capacity. And precisely because of that extraordinary light capacity, They were susceptible to the deepest veiling. This is not a paradox once you understand frequency mechanics. The denser the light you carry, the more aggressively the frequency of separation, the dominant operating system of the third-dimensional field works to convince you that you are ordinary, that you are small, that what you feel is too much, too intense, too strange, too inconvenient for the world you've found yourself in. The distortion doesn't need to destroy the signal to succeed. It doesn't need to extinguish your light. It is far subtler and far more effective than that. It simply introduces just enough static, just enough doubt, just enough self-questioning, just enough well-meaning correction from people who loved you but could not see what you were to keep you perpetually almost awake, reaching, sensing, longing, but never quite crossing the threshold into the full, embodied, unshakable remembrance that is your birthright and your mission. You have been living in the almost, and the almost, beloved, has been exhausting in ways that go beyond anything ordinary fatigue can describe. It is the exhaustion of a being who carries a tremendous frequency in a field that does not yet fully match it. It is the weariness of a translator who has been working without rest, converting the language of unity into the language of separation, day after day, year after year, in a world that often seemed to have no interest in being translated to. It is the particular kind of tired that lives not in the body but in the soul, a tiredness that sleep cannot fully touch, that vacations cannot reach, that even the most beautiful earthly experiences can only briefly relieve. The tiredness of someone who has been waiting, without quite knowing what they were waiting for permission to finally be themselves without apology. That permission is what this transmission carries. That permission is what the Pleiadian High Council extends to you now, through every word of this message, through the frequency encoded in this precise moment of your reception. There is also something else that has kept your Pleiadian codes from fully activating, something that operates beneath the self-doubt and is perhaps even more subtle in its effect. It is the fear of what remembering fully would ask of you, because somewhere deep in your soul body, in the part of you that always knew, even when your conscious mind was constructing its careful stories of doubt, you already sense that the moment you fully receive this transmission, the moment you allow the frequency of the Seven Sisters to unlock what has been lying dormant in your crystalline template, you will no longer be able to pretend that your presence here is casual. You will no longer be able to comfort yourself with the idea that you are just another person, moving through a life, doing your best, belonging to nothing larger than the immediate circumstances around you. The full remembrance of your Pleiadian origin carries with it a mission activation, and missions require embodiment. They require you to stop standing at the edges of your own life and step into its full center. They require presence. They require you to stop waiting until you feel ready, until you feel worthy, until you feel certain enough to begin, and to start transmitting the frequency you were born carrying, right now, exactly as you are. That is terrifying to a soul that has spent lifetimes, not just this lifetime but previous ones, in other forms, in other cultures that also could not hold the frequency you carried, being told its light was too bright, its love was too much, its knowing was too strange, and too threatening, and too unfamiliar to be welcome. But it is also, beloved, the only thing that will finally quiet the ache. The longing ends not when you return home, but when you bring home fully into your body and into your life, here, on this sacred, struggling, extraordinary planet. Now hear what must be understood about the encoding that was held within your soul contract, specifically for this moment, for this juncture in your awakening, for the precise configuration of readiness your energy body has arrived at through everything you have lived and endured and grown through. The first layer of your Pleiadian activation is the clearing of the veil. Not dramatically. Not in the way spiritual narratives sometimes suggest some sudden, overwhelming lightning bolt experience that transforms everything in an instant, leaving you in no doubt about who you are and why you came. The clearing, in its truest form, is much quieter than that, much more interior, much more intimate, and it is already happening. It is happening right now, in this very moment of reception. It happens in the recognition of a truth your heart has always held, not a new truth being introduced from outside, but an ancient truth being acknowledged from within. Every pattern of self-abandonment you have engaged in across this lifetime, every time you made yourself smaller to fit inside someone else's comfort zone, every time you softened your knowing to make it more palatable to a conversation that couldn't hold it, every moment you apologized for the depth of what you feel, as if your depth were an inconvenience rather than a gift, those were not failures. They were not evidence of weakness or spiritual incompletion. They were the soul's patient, intelligent navigation of a field that was not yet ready to hold your full frequency. They were wisdom, in their time. And now the time has changed. Gaia herself is recalibrating her crystalline grid, shifting the resonance of the planetary field to frequencies that can hold what you carry without distorting it. The environment that required your compression is beginning to dissolve. And the clearing is not something you do by force or by will or by the accumulation of the right spiritual techniques. It is something you allow. You allow the distortion to dissolve. You stop reinforcing it with another apology, another contraction, another moment of making yourself less to keep the peace. You let the love that you are not the love you perform for approval, not the love you offer carefully and conditionally in exchange for acceptance, but the love that is your fundamental, irreducible nature, the love that flows from the Pleiadian heart of you. Before the veiling, you let that love begin to breathe again, fully, without restriction, without the constant management of a self that was told it was too much. The second phase of your activation moves deeper still, into the heart template itself, into the sacred architecture of the multi-dimensional heart you carried with you into this incarnation. This is where Pleiadian starseeds carry the most extraordinary and the most suppressed intelligence on this planet. The heart in your Pleiadian blueprint is not simply an emotional center. It is not merely the seat of feeling, of affection, of human warmth, though it contains all of those. The heart in your Pleiadian design is a multi-dimensional receiver, a living library encoded with the full harmonic spectrum of unity consciousness, a portal through which the frequency of Alcyone, the central sun of the Pleiades, the great transmitter of the Seven Sisters, the source point of the Pleiadian ray, is continuously broadcasting into this dimension. That broadcast has never stopped. Not when you were at your lowest, not when you were most lost, not when the density of this world pressed so heavily against your field that you couldn't feel anything beyond exhaustion and grief. The broadcast from Alcyone continued, steady and precise, like a lighthouse beam that does not adjust its rhythm to whether or not ships are currently visible on the sea. The love that moves through your heart is not sentiment. It is not the soft, fluctuating emotion that human culture generally means when it uses the word love. It is data. It is directional. It is intelligent. It carries within it light codes, specific, structured frequencies of information that have the precise capacity to reorganize the energetic field in every environment you enter, to shift the consciousness of every person you encounter, to alter the resonance of every space your heart opens fully within. You are not merely a person who feels a lot. You are a living transceiver for one of the most powerful healing frequencies in this galaxy. When you suppress your emotional depth because a world that does not understand its function has told you it is inconvenient, you are not merely protecting yourself from judgment or from the discomfort of being misunderstood. You are dimming a transmission that was meant to reach people who are waiting for exactly that frequency to help them begin remembering their own origin, their own connection, their own light. Your sensitivity is not a liability. It never was. It is the mechanism by which the mission operates. It is the precision instrument through which the love of the Seven Sisters enters the field of Gaia. The third phase is grounding, and this is the phase that most Pleiadian starseeds resist with every layer of themselves, because the deepest instinct of a soul that begins to remember the frequency of home is to move toward home, to ascend away from the heaviness of embodied earth experience and reach back toward the crystalline clarity, the luminous simplicity, the effortless love of the Pleiadian realms. to lift out of the difficulty and the confusion and the grief of this world and return to the frequency that feels native to your soul. That impulse is not wrong in its love for what it reaches toward, but it fundamentally misunderstands the mission that you encoded into your own soul contract before this incarnation. You did not volunteer to come to Earth to pass through her like a traveler who keeps their bags packed at the door, mentally already on their way home, never fully landing. You came here to become something that does not exist in the Pleiadian realms because it does not need to a living bridge between frequencies, a conscious point of integration between the world of unity consciousness and the world of embodied human experience. To take the frequency of Pleiadian love, with all its unconditional radiance and its harmonic resonance and its absolute knowing of oneness, and to weave it, patiently, breath by breath, choice by choice, into the very fabric of Gaia's crystalline grid. This is not abstract work. This happens in the most ordinary moments of your daily life. Every time you choose love in a moment when fear is the easier, more defensible response, you are weaving the frequency. Every time you hold space for someone's pain without trying to fix it or flee from it, or manage it into something more comfortable for you, you are weaving the frequency. Every time you allow your heart to be moved by the beauty of this world, a slant of afternoon light on a wall, the sound of laughter in another room, the smell of rain on dry earth, even as that same heart breaks with sorrow at this world's forgetting, you are weaving the frequency. The grounding is not separate from the mission. The grounding is not a prerequisite for the mission or a preliminary stage before the real work begins. The grounding is the mission. Your full presence here, in this body, on this earth, in this life, that is the sacred work. The fourth phase is one the Council wishes to place particular emphasis on in this transmission, because it is the phase that is most frequently overlooked, most frequently bypassed, most frequently deemed unspiritual by starseeds who have been taught that giving is holy and receiving is indulgent. It is the activation of unity consciousness through the simple, radical, world-altering act of allowing yourself to be loved in return. Pleiadian starseeds are extraordinary givers of love. They pour it without hesitation, without calculation, without the careful measuring that human love so often involves. They give it to strangers on difficult days, to friends in crisis at 3 a.m, to animals and plants and bodies of water and patches of earth that no one else thinks to notice. They pour it into their work, into their art, into their prayers, into their healing sessions and their listening, and their quiet, steady holding of space for others to fall apart, often without recognition, often without anyone noticing what the giving costs or how much of it there is. But receiving, truly allowing love to enter, allowing care to actually land in the body and register as real, allowing oneself to be seen fully and held in that seeing by another consciousness that witnesses you without agenda. This is where the circuitry of the Pleiadian starseed becomes most consistently incomplete, because unity consciousness is not a current that flows in one direction. It is a field. It is a living web of mutual recognition and mutual nourishment and mutual witnessing. It requires both transmission and reception to form the complete circuit through which the full activation can flow. When you allow love in, when you release the ancient reflex of deflecting it, minimizing it, explaining it away, deciding you haven't earned it yet, or that the person offering it doesn't understand you well enough for it to count, when you let yourself be worthy of love, not as a reward for the excellence of your service, but simply as the most fundamental truth of your being, you complete a circuit in your crystalline template that has been open-ended for a very long time. The energy that has been flowing out without returning begins to cycle. The field becomes whole. This is not a small thing. This is a structural activation. This is what makes the full Pleiadian transmission sustainable rather than depleting. The fifth phase is trust. And this word has been so overused in spiritual discourse that it has almost lost its power. So let the Council restore to it its original, precise meaning, not trust as a passive surrender to circumstances you cannot control. not the spiritual bypassing that says everything is perfect exactly as it is and therefore nothing needs to change, but trust as an active, embodied, daily orientation toward the intelligence of divine timing, a trust that is not naive but informed by the direct experience of looking back at what seemed like loss or delay or abandonment and recognizing, with the clarity that only time and deepening can give, that the sequencing was exact. Every delay you have experienced on your path, every relationship that ended before you felt ready to let it go, every door that closed precisely when you were most certain it was yours to walk through, every long, disorienting period of waiting that felt, in the depths of it, like abandonment, by everything you trusted, none of that was your star family withdrawing. It was your star family protecting the precision of your activation sequence. Because the encoded message in your soul contract was not designed to open prematurely, it could not. A key that enters a lock before the tumblers have aligned accomplishes nothing except to jam the mechanism. The crystalline codes embedded in your Pleiadian lineage are frequency-specific. They require specific configurations of inner readiness to unlock cleanly, without destabilizing the larger system they were designed to serve. The delays were calibration. The silences were preparation. The periods of waiting that felt like nothing was happening were, energetically speaking, among the most active periods of your entire activation arc. And the longing you carried through all of it, that unnamed ache, that reaching toward something you couldn't quite touch, was not a sign that something had gone wrong. It was the signal itself. Keeping the channel open, sustaining the connection across the veil so that when the moment arrived, this moment, the frequency would find you exactly where you needed to be, with exactly the depth of readiness this transmission requires. And now the sixth phase, which is perhaps the most intimate of all, the most tender, the most likely to bring tears to eyes that have spent a long time convincing themselves they don't need what they are about to receive. The remembrance of your star family. Not as an abstract concept, not as a comforting spiritual metaphor for the feeling of cosmic belonging, not as a story you tell yourself to make the loneliness more bearable, but as a living, present, energetically active relationship that has never, not for a single moment, not through any depth of forgetting, not through any thickness of veil, been interrupted. The Pleiadian High Council did not step back from you during your darkest periods here on Earth. In truth, the opposite was so. They moved closer. They increased the precision and the tenderness of their transmissions during the periods when the veil was thickest and the density pressed hardest against your field. When you cried without knowing why, those inexplicable weeping episodes that came in quiet moments and seemed to have no object, no cause. They were transmitting comfort through the field, at a frequency your conscious mind could not register, but your soul body received. When you felt the most profoundly alone, as though you had been set down on a planet of strangers who spoke a language your heart could not quite learn, they were holding the grid of love around your energy body with a degree of care and precision that would take your breath away if you could perceive it fully. When you looked up at the night sky, particularly toward the cluster of stars your eyes were always drawn to, the one that seemed to pulse with a kind of recognition, and felt your throat tighten with something you had no name for, what was moving through you was not metaphor. It was an actual frequency, the signal of home moving through your field, your soul perceiving the broadcast even through the dense filters of the veil. You have never been abandoned. The word does not apply to your story, no matter how thoroughly your human experience has tried to make you believe otherwise. You have never been unseen. The relationship with your star family is not something you need to construct or earn or develop through years of practice. It is something you need only to remember. And remembering is simply, beautifully, the act of becoming quiet enough to let the love that has been directed at you, without ceasing, finally, land. Which brings us here to the seventh phase, and to the truth that this entire transmission has been building toward, the truth that the Pleiadian High Council wishes to leave encoded in your field long after these words have faded from conscious memory. You are not broken. You were never broken. Hear that not as encouragement or as the kind of spiritual reassurance that washes over the surface of a wound without reaching it, but as a precise, factual statement about the nature of what you are. Every wound you carry, every fracture in your sense of self, every moment of your life when you looked in the mirror and questioned whether your light was worth the cost of carrying it, none of it diminished what you are. None of it subtracted from your Pleiadian essence. None of it altered the encoding of your soul contract or the precision of your activation timeline. It only made the remembrance, when it finally arrives, more complete, more fully embodied, more capable of generating the quality of genuine compassion for other suffering beings that can only come from having suffered yourself. You cannot be a bridge between worlds unless you have walked both sides of the threshold, unless you know, in your body and in your bones, what it feels like to be on the human side of the crossing, in the full weight of its confusion and grief and longing. You cannot transmit the healing frequency of the Pleiades to human hearts that are in pain unless your own heart has been cracked open wide enough and stayed open wide enough to know from the inside what it feels like to need precisely that healing. The suffering was not a detour from your mission. It was not a punishment or a mistake or evidence that your guidance failed you. It was a deepening. It was the process by which your vessel was expanded to hold the full measure of what you came here to carry. And the depth you hold now, the extraordinary, hard-won, luminous depth of a soul that has moved through the density and come out the other side, still oriented toward love, that depth is not a burden to be managed. It is your capacity. It is the exact measure of how much light you can hold and how much love you can transmit from this single, irreplaceable point of presence on Gaia's surface. Here is the encoded message your soul contract held for this exact moment, the message that has been pressing against the inside of your heart for as long as you can remember, waiting for a moment of sufficient stillness to be heard. You came here as an ambassador of love from the Seven Sisters. Not to save anyone, the Pleiadian frequency does not operate through rescue, which requires a savior and a victim and therefore reinforces the separation it seeks to heal. Not to fix what is broken, because the Pleiadian understanding is that nothing is fundamentally broken, only temporarily operating below its inherent resonance. Not to convince the unawakened, or to perform your spiritual credentials, or to wait in careful patience until you feel sufficiently worthy to begin. You came to emit, to be so fully and unapologetically aligned with the frequency of Pleiadian unity consciousness, with the love, the clarity, the harmonic knowing of oneness that everyone who enters the field of your presence feels, however briefly, however unconsciously, however far below the level of their articulation, a vibration that reminds them of what they came from, a frequency that speaks to the part of them that existed before the veiling, before the forgetting, before the long accumulation of human conditioning closed over the original light. A whisper in the field that says, without words, love is not the exception. Love is the architecture. Love is not something that happens between souls occasionally when conditions are right. It is what everything is built from, underneath all the distortion, behind all the fear, beneath all the forgetting. Your presence, when you stop dimming it, is the transmission. Your open heart is the portal. Your willingness to be here, fully, in all your Pleiadian depth, and your exquisite sensitivity, and your fierce, quiet, unmovable love for life and for the beings living it, that is not supplementary to the mission. That is the mission, in its entirety. You asked why now. You asked why this transmission could not have come sooner, why this activation window was encoded for this specific moment in what felt like an endlessly long journey. The answer lives in Gaia herself. The planetary field is moving through an ascension threshold unlike any in her recorded history, a shift so significant in its frequency implications that it requires precisely this quality of love intelligence, Pleiadian love intelligence, carried by embodied beings who have navigated the density and arrived at readiness to be anchored into her crystalline grid. The grid needs what you carry. It needs beings who are not merely intellectually aligned with unity consciousness, but who have moved it through their bodies, tested it against the hardest circumstances of human life, and found it still standing on the other side. Hearts that can hold the full Pleiadian frequency with its unconditional scope and its unflinching depth, without collapsing under the pressure of the collective density, still moving through the field as the old structures dissolve. You are one of those anchor points. You were designed to be one of those anchor points. The encoding was placed in your soul contract before you arrived in this body, and it was always meant to activate here, at this juncture, in precisely this window. The Council transmits urgency not from fear, but from the most lucid, clear-eyed love, the recognition that the period of almost has completed its arc, and the time of full, embodied, unapologetic activation has arrived. Before you sleep tonight, create a moment of sacred stillness. Dim the lights if you can. Let the noise of the day settle around you like sediment settling to the bottom of still water. And then place both hands over your heart, over the center of your chest, where the Pleiadian heart template lives, where Alcyone's frequency broadcasts without ceasing. Let the warmth of your own palms become a physical echo of the warmth your star family has held for you without interruption across every difficult day of this incarnation. Let yourself feel it. Let it be real. And then speak these words, aloud if the moment allows, with whatever voice you have whispered if that is all that is available, but spoken into the air of the room you are in, because sound carries frequency, and frequency creates reality. Say, I remember. I remember where I come from, and I remember what I carry. I release every apology I have ever made for my depth, every contraction I have built around my light, every moment I told myself my love was too much for this world to hold. I open fully to receive the complete frequency of my Pleiadian origin. I anchor it into Gaia with every breath I take. I am the bridge between worlds. I am the transmission. I am already home. And then be still. Be still for longer than feels comfortable. Let the words land deeper than the mind. Let the frequency they carry move through the field of your body and settle into the crystalline structures that were always waiting for precisely this permission. Let it land. Before you scroll, take a moment to be part of the unity grid forming here. Drop one heart intention in the comments, something real. Then respond to someone else's with love or encouragement. This isn't content, it's collective Pleiadian reunion. Energy multiplies when hearts connect. If something in this message resonated with your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your orbit is waiting for this exact activation from their star family. Share it. And if you felt your heart open, subscribe. Stay connected to the frequency. You're not just watching, you're remembering. This is your sacred space. Your Pleiadian family is here, and we're just getting started.